I can't explain how difficult this is. Nobody should have to go through this.
He tied her up with duct tape and abused her in every way possible.
Her body was folded, and he put her in the garbage bin.
What defines evil? An absolute lack of empathy towards all living beings? Hatred? Deeply immoral behavior? In some horrifying cases, it's all three. This is the truly tragic case of Maddie Middleton. She was an 8-year-old girl with her whole future ahead of her. She'd never hurt a fly and was as sweet as any girl her age. The end she met at the hands of Adrian Gonzalez is simply chilling. Let's dive into the case of the teen who killed an 8-year-old and then threw her body in a dumpster. Today's story begins in Santa Cruz, in the sunny state of California. Maddie Middleton was born November 2006 to Laura and Mike. When Maddie was kindergarten age, Laura and Mike split up and Maddie stayed with her mom. However, she was very close to her dad too, and the two would do fun activities at least on a weekly basis. Maddie was the sweetest girl you can imagine. She always seemed happy, she loved the beach, the water, and she would always have a joke to tell. She and Laura lived in a newly built loft building called the Tannery Arts Center by the water, which had been made for low-income households and artists in the area. This was a very friendly community, especially encouraging people to interact and collaborate in making artistic projects together.
In general, just felt very quiet, serene. It was really beautiful. It's backs up to the San Lorenzo River.
It was a tight-knit community where everyone knew each other and everyone felt safe. Laura was happy to let Maddie play outside with other children unsupervised. Unfortunately, that would soon take a very dark turn. It was Sunday, July 26, 2015. Maddie had been riding her scooter around the Tannery Arts Center, just like any other weekend. Around 5 p.m., the CCTV footage showed Maddie playing outside for the last time. Maddie never returned home. Laura quickly entered panic mode. This was unlike her daughter, and she would never go to a friend's place without at least consulting Laura first. At 6:08 p.m., Laura notified the police about her daughter's disappearance. The search for Maddie began immediately, but she was nowhere to be found.
Santa Cruz police say they've expanded their 4.5 square mile search area for the missing 8-year-old girl and have called in the FBI, who have additional resources to help. Search crews in orange jackets are fanning out through a large area of Santa Cruz, hoping to find any sign of Madison Middleton.
With neighbors, the local police, and the FBI searching frantically for her daughter, Laura barely felt alive anymore.
I already fell apart. Now I'm just in survival mode. I can't explain how difficult this is. Nobody should have to go through this.
On July 27th, the police were still looking for Maddie and refused to call the search a kidnapping investigation.
We're not calling this a kidnapping. We're still early on in our investigation. What we're calling it is we're looking for a lost child.
The police seemed optimistic, or at least trying to keep the public hopeful. Meanwhile, a boy who lived around the same complex was eager to find out if there were any updates on the case. This was 15-year-old Adrian Gonzalez. Every other hour, he would ask his neighbors if they'd heard anything new or if they'd found Maddie.
They kept asking any updates, and I was like, we're not getting anywhere, I don't know.
All day long, Adrian would play with his yo-yo outside his flat and watch over the neighbors who were searching for Maddie.
Every time I spoke to you guys or the police or the FBI, you were like, any updates? And I was like, dude, why do you keep asking me? You're the only one asking me and asking my brother and asking everybody.
It was Monday, the 28th. No one had given up the search, and the Tannery Arts Center community was hopeful Maddie would be found, since the police had expanded their search a lot. But at 7:55 that evening, a police detective had looked inside a recycling dumpster, inside an enclosed parking structure, and inside the dumpster was Maddie's lifeless body. She was just a few yards away from where she lived.
I just cannot imagine, for those who live there and know the story, they must think this every time they walk by or have to throw their garbage in there.
Adrian Gonzalez heard the news immediately. He was standing in the area. The minute he knew, he ran off. This move was obvious enough for the police to go after him. He was arrested on the spot and was taken to the police station. He openly confessed to killing Maddie. As he was taken to the police car, Gonzalez's mom threw a fit in front of the whole community. She didn't believe her son could have done such a thing. The police must be wrong, she said. But as the police took a closer look at Maddie's body, the truth only got darker. She had been killed in the most violent ways. Gonzalez had lured her into his apartment with the promises of ice cream. Then he tied her up with duct tape and abused her in every way possible. When he was done with her, he threw her in the trash.
He folded her. That's how they described it in several articles, that her body was folded, and he put her in the garbage bin. It was also discovered later that there was garbage thrown in those bags along with Maddie.
The tannery community simply could not believe this had happened.
It's just horrible, and you feel bad for both families.
Indeed, Maddie's family was devastated, not just shocked and deeply hurt, but confused. How could a 15-year-old boy even think of doing such a thing, let alone doing it? The police looked into his past, his family, his friends, anything that would give them a clue into his motivation. Apparently, he didn't really have any friends, just his yo-yo and his piano. There hadn't been any incidents reported from his school, but he did show cruelty to animals once, to his own dog.
Many of these kids had one or two of those behaviors in their life. Killing animals, they're suicidal. They want to die. So that's a deadly combination.
Indeed, Gonzalez had told some of his peers that he was thinking of ending himself just months before killing Maddie. This is what he wrote in one of his Instagram posts. Wears all black to try and look powerful and hide the crippling anxiety towards the future and the constant worry that I'll never find someone who loves me. Well, unfortunately, doing what he did, it is very likely he'll never find someone who loves him. Some of Gonzalez's schoolmates had seen this post, and they always figured he was the lonely, depressive type, but they never imagined he was capable of doing such horrific things to another human being.
I didn't really believe it at first. I still can't really picture him being the type of person to do that.
Honestly, it's hard to picture anyone being that type of person. Who in any state of mind would do such a horrifying list of things to an 8-year-old? But Adrian Gonzalez was long gone. He described what he did to Maddie in full detail to the police with a calm face. He even used the word torturous about her death. Gonzalez was charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, assault, and several other crimes. The prosecution wanted to try him as an adult due to the brutality and premeditation of the crime.
One of the most egregious and shocking crimes in Santa Cruz County. Prosecutors said it's a crime that needs to be tried in adult courts. Adrian Gonzalez, described in court Tuesday as deviant, homicidal, who showed no remorse or regret when he confessed to killing his 8-year-old neighbor.
Gonzalez's defense attorneys looked into his motive behind the horrific murder. They found his crippling anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts, along with his very low self-esteem, at the bottom of this. Gonzalez hated himself and wanted to die. He didn't have the courage to take his own life, so he took all his negative feelings onto a much more vulnerable person. The defense attorneys also argued that Gonzalez would need all the treatment and rehabilitation he can get, so he should spend his time at a juvenile facility. This would have meant that he would walk free at 23.
How could we take that chance of putting somebody back on the street in 5 years when he's 23 and say he's been treated? It's not right.
But in 2017, when Gonzalez's trial started, Maddie's parents started speaking up for Maddie. They wanted justice for their daughter.
I want to make sure that if he did this, that he's not able to do it again.
During his trial, Gonzalez initially pleaded not guilty to all charges. Then he changed his mind and pleaded guilty.
Adrian said that he had considered suicide after he killed Maddie. A friend of his from middle school said that he would talk to her in the evenings, and he was very depressed, and he talked to her many times about killing himself or threatening to kill himself.
Adrian Gonzalez told the judge that he killed Maddie to see how people would react if he took his own life. It was like a demo session. On Monday, July 28th, 2 days after killing Maddie, Gonzalez posted a video of his hands playing Gary Jules' song Mad World on piano. This was the soundtrack to the 2001 film Donnie Darko, where the central character was defined by his death dreams. With most people speaking for trying Gonzalez as an adult, Laura joined the popular opinion. I do believe in giving young people, even adults who make mistakes, lots of rehabilitation, but on a case-by-case basis. One size does not fit all. He needs to be in solitary confinement for the rest of his life. To this day, Gonzalez has shown no remorse for his crimes. During the trial, Laura even asked him if he wanted to say something to her, and he didn't reply. He never wrote an apology letter to Maddie's family or expressed any regrets. Adrian's mom, Reggie, however, is doing all she can to offer support and condolences to the family. She is devastated by her son's actions too, and is trying to make amends in any way she can. Reggie said that both Laura and her lost children on July 26, 2015. The judge had agreed to try Gonzalez as an adult, but cases often drag in the US, and it has taken years for the trial to actually reach a verdict. Unfortunately, in this case, the passing of time had a direct effect on Adrian Gonzalez's sentence. In August 2018, a new bill was passed.
Senate Bill 1391, which modifies the law to prevent anyone under the age of 16 accused of violent crimes such as murder or serious felonies from automatically going to trial as an adult in the justice system.
Gonzalez was already 19, but since he committed the murder when he was 15, he would now be automatically tried as a minor. He thus received a sentence of only 6 years in juvenile court to be released when he turns 25 years old.
Gonzalez will serve out his sentence at the Department of Juvenile Justice until he's 25 years old. That's in 4 years. He will also need to register as a offender.
The bill not only protected Gonzalez, but it can have bad repercussions on teenagers involved in gangs. Their families can push them to commit crimes for them, since the punishment for a 14 to 15-year-old is much less severe than for an adult. Gonzalez's sentence was reduced to practically nothing because of this bill.
Now, he was facing approximately 127 years in adult court. But since this new ruling came down, this new law that says you cannot be tried as an adult if you're less than 16 years of age, he's now in juvenile court, and they can only keep him until he's 25 years old.
The law is the law, and Maddie's parents will have to make do with whatever justice they got for their daughter. Meanwhile, her father tries to build Maddie's legacy.
Just keep feeling strongly that there's positive to come out of this. And I've seen it. I've seen it with people, how they interact, how they care more for each other, how they take things less for granted.
This is what we can hope for following such a horrible tragedy. The fear that Maddie experienced in her last moments is beyond heartbreaking. It makes no sense that things like this should happen to anyone, let alone a sweet, innocent girl. Unless we can learn something from tragedies like this, they were all for nothing. And that is the truly upsetting case of little Maddie Middleton. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Anna Solves. Before you go, why not give this video a like and subscribe? And if you can take it, why not check out our other disturbing cases? Have a good night, stay safe, and take care of each other. It's scary out there.